Welcome to this training on assisting students with disabilities and how to connect them to the Office of Accessibility Services here at Belmont University. During this training, you will learn the importance of assisting students with disabilities, how to interact with this population of students, and how to connect students to the Office of Accessibility Services. First, let's look at the importance of assisting students with disabilities and how to interact with this population of students.
Hey, my name is Allie and I am a TT council member for this upcoming orientation, and I was hoping to talk to someone about a few questions I have about working with students with disabilities at this upcoming summer orientation.
Yeah, so my name is Elena and I am the coordinator for the Office of Accessibility Services, and I'll be happy to answer your questions.
Great, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. My first question is, I'm just wondering if there's more to the term disability than what I originally think of when I think of the word.
Okay, so tell me this. When you think of an individual with a disability, what comes to your mind first?
Maybe a student who is blind or a student who uses a wheelchair to get around?
Yeah, so typically our minds tend to go toward disabilities that are visible. However, there are many different types of disabilities and not all of them may be visible. For example, you may have students with chronic health disorders such as POTS or diabetes. You may have students with a learning disability or an autism spectrum disorder. Some students may even have a mental health diagnosis such as anxiety and depression, among others.
Gotcha, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much for explaining that. And I'm also curious, why is the topic of disability important to Belmont University specifically?
Yeah, so colleges and universities across the U.S. have seen an increase in the number of students with disabilities arriving on college campuses. Because of this, it's important to understand how to interact with a student with a disability and how to help them get connected to the Office of Accessibility Services here at Belmont. We are also charged with incorporating the 5 ways of being into our experiences here at the university. One of the ways that we can do this is through bridge building. Helping students locate resources that could be helpful for them helps us build a bridge to the university and its resources. This helps students with disabilities have access to a college experience similar to their peers.
Gotcha, that makes a ton of sense. Based on what you described, it sounds like it's very likely that I will be working with students who have a disability at orientation. And I'm wondering, what is the most appropriate language to use when describing a student who has a disability?
Yeah, so when working with an individual with a disability, just ask them how they want to be identified. Some people maybe want to be identified using person-first language. In this instance, you would say a person with autism instead of an autistic person. However, some individuals may want to be identified using identity-first language. In this instance, you would say a blind person or a deaf person. Everyone has different preferences, so when unsure, just ask.
Great, thank you so much. That clarifies that. I'm also curious, what happens if a student has someone with them or someone accompanying them on orientation day?
Yeah, so if a student is accompanied by a guardian or an aide, you'll want to direct the conversation to the student. Speaking strictly to the guardian or the aide could make the student feel ignored or unwelcomed. Speaking to the student allows them to feel included in the conversation, and this helps them to have a more welcoming experience as their first on-campus college experience.
Gotcha, that is totally great to know. Thank you so much. So my last question is, what do I do if I meet a student who I think has a disability and should be connected to your office?
Yeah, so if you do encounter a student who you feel like might have a disability, the one thing we ask is that you not single them out. There is a medical law called HIPAA, which allows individuals the right to privacy regarding their medical diagnosis. If you see a student that you think might need additional assistance, just ask how you can help and support them during orientation. To direct students to our office, simply use a blanket statement, such as, if you know you will need accommodations in the fall, please register with the Office of Accessibility Services. If you have questions or want to talk more, feel free to talk to your TT leader at the end of the day.
Awesome, thank you so much. This was great information and I know I will use it for the upcoming orientation.
Yeah, no problem. It was great talking with you.
Thank you.
Now that we have covered the importance of assisting students with disabilities and how to interact with them, let's see an example of how to connect students with the Office of Accessibility Services.
Hi, I'm a freshman this year, and somebody said earlier that if we knew we needed accommodations for the fall, we could talk to our TT leader, and you could kind of help us get connected to the right office. I had some help in high school, and I was curious how I would get that same type of help when I start in the fall.
Yeah, absolutely. I am very happy to connect you to the correct office. Just to make sure I'm clear, what type of help did you receive in high school?
Yeah, I had trouble finishing tests on time because I have ADHD. I get distracted by sounds or people moving around in the room. I also use a scooter to get around, so I had to use some different routes going through my school.
Yeah, absolutely. So it sounds like what we'll need to do is get you registered with the Office of Accessibility Services. And so they can help you with that testing piece, right? Making sure that you're getting your extra time like you did in high school, and potentially allowing you to take your tests in a different classroom environment so you're not as distracted by other noises or other students. And in terms of the scooter and helping you get around, we do have a accessible routes map, and so I can give you that map, show you where it is online, and make sure you know how to get around today for the rest of the time at orientation, but also the next 4 years at Belmont.
That's great. So how do I get registered?
Yeah, absolutely. So what you'll do is you will just Google Belmont Accessibility Services, and on the website that pops up, you will see the student resources. And so on that website, there's documentation guidelines, and so you want to make sure that any documentation you have from your medical provider matches the Accessibility Services documentation guidelines, because that's what they're required to follow in order to approve you. And so once you know that your documentation guidelines are going to match Belmont's, then you can go ahead and complete the application, which is in the same spot on the website, and upload your documentation, and the staff will reach out to you and let you know what to do after that.
That's great. This is so helpful. Thank you.
Awesome. I'm so glad to be of help, and enjoy the rest of your orientation, and can't wait to welcome you to campus in the fall.
In this training, we have reviewed the importance of learning how to assist students with disabilities, how to interact with these students, and how to connect students to the Office of Accessibility Services. We appreciate your willingness to welcome all new students to Belmont. Our main goal for this training is not for you to memorize every step of our registration process, but to know how to connect new students to our office. We also want you to feel more confident working with students with disabilities throughout summer orientation and Welcome Week. Here you will see our contact information. Please feel free to reach out to us at accessibility.services@belmont.edu for any students who need to register, or if you have follow-up questions from this training. We can also be reached by phone at 615-460-6407. Our office is located on the second floor of the Beeman Student Life Center in the Dean of Students office. Thank you for your participation in this training, and we hope you have a great summer orientation and Welcome Week.